I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London. Less blue skies over North London as Arsenal are out of the Champions League and Paris Saint-Germain are through. Now, look, I'm going to be straight up. The game on Tuesday night, Inter against Barcelona, one of the greatest semifinals. We've bumped it down to the second segment, Jules. Why? Because we spoke about Barcelona a week ago against Inter. We'll probably talk Barcelona again since they have the Clásico coming up. I don't want us to turn into Barca TV. So that's okay.
Yeah, and we go for the most recent game as well, which was, what happened Wednesday night.
And it was still a good game. Yeah, not as good as the other one. But
it's just in a different style. That's it.
Paris Saint-Germain, 2-0 winners. I'm going to come out and say it. I thought over the two legs, Paris Saint-Germain fully deserving to go through. Could it have gone the other way? Yes, it could have. But it didn't. And Paris Saint-Germain are through.
Yeah, they're through.
Do you agree? They deserved
2-1 even on in that second leg. I think again we said it after the first leg. There was just not much in between the two teams. I think the fine margin. Arsenal, for example, win the XG battle. If you like your XG, if you like your stats, they have a higher XG in the first leg and a much higher XG in the second leg, despite PSG penalty miss as well by Vitinha. So. If you look at some of the stats, Arsenal had 20 shots at the Parc des Princes on Wednesday night. Nobody this season has had that many shots against this PSG team. Nobody. Not even when PSG were not as good as they are now earlier in the season. Nobody goes there and has 20 shots. But Arsenal did, and they can have regrets, I think. But overall, this PSG team showed all its qualities and all what they can do. They can weather storms. They are so clinical into boxes now. They are ruthless at times. They've got a great mentality, and that's what sometimes help you in a game where it's fine margins.
They have tremendous versatility. I made the point before. They can press you. They can play a possession game. They can go for the jugular commitment forward. But they can also sit and defend, which is kind of what we saw in the first 20, 25 minutes of the game. Arsenal having a whole bunch of chances. Gigio Donnarumma coming up huge.
Huge. Yeah.
None more so than the save off of Martin Odegaard. I mean, you can take your pick. The Saka one in the second half was good too. But he said his critics in Paris. Now, I'm sorry, I don't mean to troll you, but France is a country where you've got a big chunk of the population who don't care at all about sports. And you have a big chunk of the population with slight dysfunction that they're more into rugby and cycling. I'm assuming it's these people who have been critical of Gigio in the past and suggesting that Safonov should play or Tenas or Keylor Navas over the years. Like, what are we talking about here?
Well, no, when he makes mistakes,
Does that mean you drop him when you make some mistakes?
No. But
Messi makes mistakes sometimes too.
It's not so much about dropping. It's just that when you are a goalkeeper of a team that has those kind of ambitions, like every big club, and you make mistakes and you cost the game, you cost the semi-final, you cost last 16 second leg in Madrid, all of that, obviously, it doesn't play in your favor. Okay. But I think certainly since the Arsenal game in the league phase, where he was obviously terrible and cost 2 goals and cost a defeat to the team, things have changed, especially since the turn of the year. And the Liverpool goal at the Parc des Princes, where he should do better, okay, that can happen. But then his performances away from home, especially, and the one on Wednesday night, I've just taken this team to the final. And I guess you need a great goalkeeper, as we saw with Inter and Jan Sommer, to do that.
If an average keeper plays this game for Paris Saint-Germain, are they out?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a good transition to Arteta after the game, where I think some eyebrows were a little bit raised in the sense that he said, among other things, that Arsenal were the best team in the Champions League this year. I'm going to flat out say, no, you cannot come out. It's not responsible to say that. He did say over the two legs that they were more deserving, and he said that Paris Saint-Germain, unidentified people on Paris Saint-Germain's bench, told him that you guys deserve to go through. Luis Enrique later said, no, that didn't happen, or Luis Enrique at least said, I disagree with him.
Yeah.
I'll give you my take first, Jules. This is a psychological game that he's playing. He wants his people to believe in himself. He says, I believe in you. This is his way of doing it. It's not like he's hit his head and is delusional.
No, you're right. But also he's been always quite positive anyway, before the first leg, between the two legs, despite the deficit of the first leg. And I think this is part also of his mentality, this team mentality. You have a big game at Liverpool on Sunday. I know it's not worth anymore because Liverpool are champions already, but you need to pick up your players and there's different ways of doing it through communication, through a lot of things. And that's probably his role right now, I think they've been very good in the Champions League, really in the league phase, in the knockout phase. Maybe the best. I don't know. It's hard when you're not qualified for the final, but I can see his point of view as well.
Yeah, I for one disagree, but I can understand why he's doing it. But we're going to break this down further on the Gab Juls show. Jules, continuing in this vein, the fact that Arteta, I also wonder too, the fact that Arteta comes out and says this, is this also a way to ensure that we're talking about these comments? So we're talking about him, and maybe is it a way also to protect your players a little bit? Because look, Martin Odegaard, fantastic footballer. I thought's been through a rough time. Certainly had a rough time in the first leg. Got a knock at the weekend. Saka, good on Wednesday night, I thought. Kind of fits and bursts in the first leg. And so it seems like conversations about Arteta's comments rather than more broadly individuals. Sometimes you see coaches do that. Mourinho,
maybe.
Whenever Mourinho does something stupid, or people think is stupid, he's protecting the players.
Yeah, I don't know if the players need protecting, really, to be fair. I think he also maybe wants to, because the conversation is also like, where is this Arsenal team right now? Where are they going? Are they keep improving? It's been 5 years in the job for him. He won the an FA Cup during COVID, but it's another second place potentially or third, whatever.
That's not even assured at this stage.
Yeah,
but City annoyingly are 3 points back.
No, I know, but whatever, it would be close to the title, but not the title yet. It's quarterfinal of the Champions League last season, and then semi-final. So that in itself, I guess, is an improvement. I still think they're going into the right direction. He's doing an amazing job. They only have one player above the age of 30 in the team that started on Wednesday night in Paris, for example. And is Lewis Kelly ready for a game like this? Maybe not. Can they learn from this? I think they can, like they did from the disappointment against Bayern last season in the quarterfinals. So I don't think it's so negative at all. And I think his comments more broadly about whether they were the best team or not in this Champions League or deserve to go to the final, I think are also comments like, we are doing things right here, which I think I agree with him. I think he's right. They are doing a lot of really good things, a lot of the right things. There's something missing, which they will have to find out and figure out what is missing and bridge that gap. But I think they're on the right way.
You make a good point about the age of the team. It's obviously a young team. There's also an elephant in the room, which is contract extensions. And the way they play this is going to be really, really big because you have William Saliba, you have Bukayo Saka, both, I think, 2027.
Yeah, 2 years,
And you also have, you're going to have to sort out Ethan Ranieri, and you're going to have to sort out Miles Lewis-Skelly. Now, obviously, with the younger players, it's not so much, I think, a question of, are they going to go and play a hard game and leave? No, we have to presume they're Arsenal fans. They came up through the ranks.
Yeah.
But we've seen other young players, Aiden Heaven, Chido Obi, leave, presumably because they weren't, Arsenal said, okay, we value your contribution at XYZ, and they thought they were worth more. And in the end, they ended up moving on. So I think there's big decisions to be made upstairs. And I go back to this on January because it's a big talking point in the Arsenal sphere. You know what I'm going to say about this. Gabriel Jesus goes down. As you know, and for the record, I'm a big Kai Havertz fan. I think Kai Havertz is fine as a center forward for what he does for this team. Would it be better if you had Erling Haaland up front? Probably. But outside of that, for what he's asked to do, I don't think you need somebody to replace Havertz, but you need an alternative to him, right? That didn't happen in January. Well, it didn't happen last summer when I thought it should have happened because Gabriel Jesus, to me, is more of a wide player. After Gabriel Jesus got hurt, they made the move for Watkins. It didn't work out. As we understand it, the valuations were far, far apart, and also Villa shifted John Duran. So at that point, they decided, let's keep Watkins.
Of course.
I don't think... I think it's fair to look at this and say, this possibly cost you the Premier League title. It possibly ended up costing you this, right? There's no counterbalance to it. But I think it's pretty evident when you have Trossard or Marino up front. Those are both two guys playing out of position, especially Marino. Part of me says the worst thing that could have happened is for Mika Marino to have scored those 2 goals as an emergency center forward and then continued scoring. Because to me, the team looks completely different when he's when he's at center forward.
I think he did his best. His performance at the Bernabeu was outstanding, for example. But yeah, obviously there's limitation because the guy's a number 8 and it's just he had to learn very quickly to do a job as a number 9. So it's different. I don't think anybody can say they would have won the Premier League with a number 9 or they would have won the Champions League or going to the final of the Champions League because they scored over 100 goals this season. Same last season. They were the best attack just behind City last season in the Premier League, for example. So I don't know if a top striker would have helped. For sure, it would have. Would it have made a difference? I don't know. Is that where you lost the title last season? This season? Did you lose it through injuries that are maybe something they need to look at as well? The injuries. How can you lose Odegaard for 3 months and Saka for 4 and Havertz for 4?
Let me turn it around, right? And I realize, and obviously the injury, I think the Saka injury was obviously a major blow. But in the end, and I think this is part of the reason why there's a new director of football, Andrea Berta, because ultimately it's about resource allocation. Arsenal put resources, and there's reasons for this. Okay, if we assume Arsenal's back 4, first choice back 4 is Timber, when everybody's fit, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Lewis Skelly. Arsenal then put resources into Calafiori, into Tomoyasu, who's obviously already there, with injured, missed virtually the whole season, but still he is part of that group. Kivior, again, did well to replace Gabriel, but Ben White and Zinchenko is still there. Looking at this, if you have 4 defenders, you probably maybe don't need 5 defenders to back them up, especially when some of these players, like Saliba, like Gabriel before his injury, in the past were very durable. I think this is something to look at. There's a parallel universe where Calafiori never gets injured, even though he did have an injury record coming into it.
Yeah.
Maybe Calafiori's playing midfield. I mean, I think that would have been
Kelly role. That's the idea. The idea was that Calafiori would play as a left back, coming inside, inverting a lot.
Okay, here's what I think. I think in the back of their minds, they wondered, could Calafiori play in midfield instead of Partey? Not now, obviously, right? But if everything was fine, is this somebody? Because we have Lewis Skelly coming through. We obviously have Timber who can play left back with White right back, whatever. But that was one of the possibilities. So they put their resources into defenders. Many of them are comfortable ball who could play midfield. And I think Eddie Nketiah left, not replaced. And then Gabriel Jesus gets injured. Nobody coming in. And it could have been a short-term loan and whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's going to change under Berta. I don't think Berta has any issue with short-term loans to plug a gap when somebody's injured. Whether that'll work, I don't know. In terms of the 5-year progress, I mean, I think you have to be a moron to suggest that they haven't made any progress in 5 years. I mean, that's nailed on. But clearly the concern is we assume City are going to be back next season, that they're not going away. We assume, United and Spurs can't be as terrible as they were this year.
No, for sure.
Chelsea up in the air. And we assume Liverpool are going to be, it's not like Liverpool are going to turn bad all of a sudden, right? Yeah. So even that sense of selling the club to the fans and to public opinion, I think that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
On Paris Saint-Germain, what I thought, you talk about how young they are, I thought Dembele not starting this game, I think, all right, this is going to be a blow. How are they going to interpret this? Because he has the big game experience. What did you think?
I thought the first 20 minutes when they're under pressure is also because he's not there, really. And they are a weaker side without him, for sure. They struggle to beat the press because he's one of the outlet to beat the press, and you don't have that with Barcola or Doué. Barcola played the first 15 minutes as a number 9, then it was Doué. They don't know how to play that position, certainly not like Dembele. So you could see how much he was missed and how much he was really missing in what they were trying to do with the ball. And even without the ball, their press was not as efficient without him. And Luis Enrique was really frustrated on the touchline, like more than I've rarely seen him. But also because PSG were rattled like I've never seen them this season. Even when they were not as good as they are now. Like again, we said that earlier, but nobody goes there and batter them like Arsenal did for the first 20 minutes. So I think Dembele not being there, it's a huge call from Luis Enrique because he could have started him. They just didn't think he had 90. Well, it's not. He didn't have 90 minutes in him, even less 120 minutes in case the game had gone to extra time. So you just see how the game goes and you bring him on for the last 20, 30 if you need him. And that's what they did in the end. I think some people at the club even were hoping that you wouldn't need him full stop, that this PSG team without him could do a job where you could just rest him pretty much. But he just came on at the end, gave the assist on the Hakimi goal, and that's it. This is another assist. Even if he didn't score, he still had an impact when he only played like 25 minutes. It's ridiculous.
All right, I've given my Valentine to Donnarumma. I'm going to save it for another former Serie A player. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. I'm just going to remind people about that. He spent the first 6 months of the season at Napoli, obviously, waiting for the phone to ring. He thought the phone was going to ring in the summer. He was still on his teeny tiny Dinamo Batumi contract that they got at Naples. Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't on Dinamo Batumi wages, but it was not a lot. I think he runs counter to what Paris Saint-Germain have been doing of late, in the sense that he was seen as an absolute soloist in Italy. He looks like a throwback, right down with those weird socks that he wears down to his ankle. He did not feel like somebody Luis Enrique would want to bring in. And yet he has integrated, I think, really, really well in this. Hit the post. Wasn't maybe as good as the first leg, but did a lot of work. Really did a ton of work defensively.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful story. And Kvaradona is no more, but Kylian Scalia one day, maybe?
Kylian Scalia.
You like that, huh?
I'm not sure. Why Kylian Scalia?
Well, he plays wide, scores some goals.
Yeah.
Tricky dribbler.
Yeah, I mean, same number, that's for sure. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I think he was outstanding. But really, Joe Neves, like some players maybe not at their best, like Nuno Mendes, for example, which we've been used to being so good.
Marquinhos, arguably, on the goal.
Yeah, and he's probably the weakest link in that team, to be fair, the weakest point. But some of the other individual performances, like for a team that is so good collectively, and that's what sets it apart, I think, compared to other PSG teams of the past, it's also individually that they made the difference on Wednesday.
All right, Paris Saint-Germain, the treble's on. All right, enough Paris Saint-Germain. Let's talk the other semifinal, Tuesday night. Epic, I think, is the word many people use. Cinematic. Inter going through, beating Barcelona 4-3, 7-6 on aggregate, 4-3 in extra time. This game was a roller coaster. It was absolutely gripping. Inter 2-0 up, then 3-2 down.
Yeah.
With Rafinha scoring minute 88, and you think it's all over?
Yeah, it should have been.
That should have been, but you don't. Francesco Cerbi.
Superheroes don't always wear capes. You know what you say? Capes?
He doesn't wear capes, no, but he's got wings tattooed. He's an angel born in hell who broke the blonde Beelzebub. You know I'm talking about, Lamine Yamal, who broke that Satan spell. 93rd minute, 37-year-old. The man beat cancer, okay? Yeah. Do you think he's going to be worried about beating Barcelona? Come on, man. Trundles into the box. He's a pure left footer. What does he do? Right-footed finish
as well.
That sends the game into extra time, where Davide Frattesi would score the winner. I just told you about the goals. There were ridiculous moments, absurd saves from Jan Sommer. Yeah. So much in this. In the end, I think. Oh, and early on, I mean, we forget about that big VAR call, the Pau Cubarsi on
penalty,
Lautaro Martinez. Yeah. Ballon d'Or Lautaro scores a goal, wins a penalty.
Yeah,
the man
is
shot up with
40% fit.
Yeah, shot up with painkillers.
Yeah.
But in the end, just seeing how exhausted everybody was on the pitch, how absolutely spent. How about leaving everything out there, including the blonde Beelzebub, Lamine Yamal, who at the end, Barcelona, they were just looking for him all the time. All the time. And he was delivering.
To be fair. Yeah, he was, again, outstanding. 20 dribbles made in the two legs. Like, I don't know a dribbler, whether it's a winger or 10, 9, that pretty much every one-on-one, he just dribbles you. He dribbles past you. And yeah, I think Di Marco was tighter and a bit more aggressive, and no problem. And Inter clearly had a plan where they just like, we can't let him even get a yard, but still he goes past you one way or another, outside or the inside. It's just incredible. He's not even 18 yet, and he can take responsibility like that in a game like this against such a great team as Inter. I just don't know. And he was going to keep improving because there's nowhere near the end product. It's just like it's going to get better and better. And
well, I'll tell you what, even if he stays at this level, he's top 5 player in the world. Even if he doesn't improve one jot from now on. Simone Inzaghi, it's his second Champions League final in 3 years. Completely different approach. He changes game plan. He changes personnel. His substitutes, he uses them all the time because he rotates. And so when they come onto the pitch, I don't think Taremi felt he was part of the B team. Frattesi certainly didn't feel like he was part of the B team. Carlos Augusto, Zelensky, and De Vrij at the end with all those clearances.
Yeah.
It's a different way to... So much of what he does is different, right down to the two strikers. We talked about that last week. But it works, and it gets them where they are in very difficult situation, in a very difficult position. Let's not forget, Inter still have major financial sustainability constraints that they, dare I say, don't hate me, Barca fans, much bigger than Barcelona's, because they can't sell off bits of the future the way Barcelona did to go and retain players. So I thought that was absolutely huge. Barcelona took issue with the refereeing. Let's get that out of the way.
The only one I think is the one on the Mkhitaryan on Lamine, just on the edge of the box. That should have been a yellow. That would have been his second yellow, and that was a clear yellow card.
Right.
It's not a penalty because he's just outside the box, just on the edge outside. But that's a yellow card every day, and that's where I agree with Pedri in the sense that for me, I thought the referee was good and got the main cause right, including the penalty after VAR. But that was a second yellow.
If you're Flick, you kind of feel like saying, live by the high line, die by the high line. Equally, though, we need to remind ourselves in this game, Barcelona, no Alejandro Balde, no Jules Koundé, a half-fit Robert Lewandowski who came on, which I thought was a big mistake from Flick, no matter how bad Ferran Torres was, and he wasn't good.
Yeah.
No Casado, obviously injured. So I think Barcelona leave this with their heads held high heading into the Clásico. But we're going to break this down further on the Gab Juls podcast. Jules, I want to persevere this, and I don't want to be mean to Lewandowski, who had a tremendous season. And it would have been a very different script. He, I think it was a Lamine Yamal cross, he had that header, which he sent over the bar, which could have changed everything. But it felt to me that once Lewandowski came into the game, and I thought it was a completely unnecessary substitution. I didn't know what Flick was doing, whether they're 3-2 up, be part of the party. He gave you nothing off the ball, which at least Ferran Torres did. Is this just Flick kind of being human and saying, like...
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I thought you can bring some experience. You can bring a guy that will score with half a chance, even if he's not fully fit. So on the moment, I thought, yeah, why not? Because you were so good in the second half, and Barcelona were just so much better than Inter. And I know they probably knew that you can never count this Inter team out anyway. But they were so dominant. I think Inter had 22% of the ball in that second half, and it was just all Barca. And he thought, okay, maybe I'll bring Lewandowski on, and even the fourth goal can come, and then this is it. This is game over, right? And this is what the guy does.
Yeah, but I think you're 3-2 up at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
When he's going to score the fourth goal in injury time.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know it was going to extra time.
No, he didn't know at the time.
Once you're in extra time,
maybe it's a bit of
you're playing with 10 men.
He can hold the ball better than Torres can, for example. I don't know. I could see his point now with a bit of hindsight. We know, but it's the same for Araujo, as I think had one of the worst cameo appearance that you would see at this level, really, because he's on the two goals coming on. I guess it's difficult to come on in a game like this. I get that, but I mean, he was shockingly bad when he came on and played and get beaten on the two goals. Really, that's unacceptable. The Acerbi goal, how can he be beaten by Acerbi on that third goal is beyond me. beyond me, really, for somebody who was a really good, highly rated defender. And I know he had the injury and now he's clearly struggling with form.
But he's been back a long time now.
Yeah, true as well, yeah.
Maybe he doesn't deal well psychologically with the fact that Inigo is definitively ahead of him.
Yeah, maybe, you're right, maybe. Or even Kubasi, yeah.
Well, Inigo
Remember
and
in the
Kubasi.
first leg we said he came on and then the first thing he did was threw the ball away after making a foul, like literally 10 seconds in that second half, because he came on at halftime at Montjuic. And you think like, why are you doing that? So I don't know, through the two games really, he seemed completely lost.
In terms of Barca, and obviously they have the Clásico this weekend, do we think it's going to spill over, bleed over, some negativity, some disappointment? In other words,
I think
as
it
they say in
can,
Spain, ¿Hay Liga?
Yeah, I think it can. I don't know how you pick yourself up from a game like this and a defeat like that when you were so close. When everybody's crying at the end, when you've played 120 minutes, that probably feels like 300 minutes, not 120. And I don't know. And in the meantime, Real Madrid were resting and taking it easy and chilling. So I don't know. It's more the way you lost the game than anything else, because that equalizer from Acerbi is the killer, really. And it's a goal you should never concede. I know we said the high line is your strength and it's also your weakness. I get that. But the way they are setting up on that goal, the shape that they have defensively in the 93rd minute, when Jan Sommer had the ball and it was a long kick from Jan Sommer, is unacceptable at this level. It's on flick on those players, the more experienced one, the younger one, Chesney, De Jong, whoever you want. I find it scandalous to consider a goal like this. If you look again at the Inter move, it's ridiculous from a Barcelona point of view defensively.
So much of the focus is obviously scapegoating, from a Barca perspective, scapegoating the referee, blaming Araujo, the Lewandowski substitution. I also thought, I was just struck by how much they look for Yamal. Again, we said it in the first leg. Dani Olmo, I'm not a huge fan. I thought, except for his goal, he contributed almost nothing. And you're supposed to be the other creative source there.
Yeah.
Rafinha, again, except for his goal. Rafinha also was kind of, I thought, a passenger in a lot of the game. Pedri I can give a pass to, because I kind of feel Inter was so compact and defended so well. Who's Pedri supposed to pass the ball to? Like it's harder for him to in this. And I don't think Pedri was bad in this game by any stretch.
Controlled that second half especially.
But once it goes into extra time, it really looked like those games like that we played as kids, when you had one kid who's better than everybody else and everybody just passes him the ball time and again.
Yeah, I mean, I think Balde's absence is a huge blow for Rafinha and the way they play together, because Real Martin is very different, and Martin's quality on crosses in the second half especially was outstanding. And I was like, wow, okay.
His defending less so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're right. But that was a good weapon from Barcelona, and they used it a lot, and Olmo obviously scores like this. But maybe because he was so hot, you just have to give him the ball, like you would give it to Messi, like you would give it to, I guess, Maradona when he played.
Hot hand.
Yeah, no, just like, give it like Arsenal used to give it to Thierry because Thierry on his day was unplayable. So, and maybe there's even subconsciously, that's why you do it, and he can do something special. And as we said last week, he wants it all the time too. Yeah. So it's not like if he's trying to avoid getting the ball, but no, he wants it, so you give it to him. I don't know. When you have so many chances and shot, and you face a goalkeeper like Sommer who's clearly walking on water, I'm not sure attacking wise how much you can really question what they did, because on another day they could have won this game 4-2,
so
5-3,
7-5.
Yeah, no, really.
There were so many.
For example, then I turn it around. Okay, offensively maybe they could have done differently, but defensively, Chesney over the two legs faces 9 shots on target. 9 shots on target for a combined XG of 3.2.
Right. Well,
and he concedes 7 goals. You can't concede 7 goals off 9 shots on target. I'm sorry. You can't. And I guess to go back to Sommer and Donnarumma especially, and Raya I don't think can really be blamed for anything in the other semi-final. But you need a world-class goalkeeper to go to win games like this one, I think. And Chesney is not a world-class goalkeeper right now. And I think that showed, especially probably more even in that second leg.
He made a big save in the first leg, which
Yeah.
could have turned things around and really set a very different tone for this return leg. And let's not forget, this is a guy who had literally retired.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, and that's part of the problem with the high line.
I wanna also give a shout out. When you see players, we see this in World Cups. We very rarely see it in league football. When you see players who clearly are half fit when they play and they give everything they have. Late in the game, I'm thinking of Denzel Dumfries, the other double D.
Yeah.
I thought he was an absolute monster
Yeah.
in this game. And obviously, Sommer was voted man of the match. I think Dumfries would have had a strong case as well. I think of Thuram, another one. The guy couldn't hardly walk. Every decision Thuram made was the correct one.
Yeah.
When Thuram gave the ball away or screwed something up, it's because he's not good enough in that moment. But mentally, he never made a mistake.
Yeah.
I compare it to some of the Barcelona players on the attack. And again, I'm thinking here of Rafinha, Dani Olmo. I saw mental errors there. I don't know if that's the coaching, if it's the preparation, it's the intensity. But maybe this is also a game where experience showed.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Inter have, I think, 8 players starting that semifinal second leg that were already in the final 3 years ago. So, 2 years ago, I think, in 2023. So I'm sure at some point for Barcelona, who's a very young team, especially when Lewandowski doesn't start, for example, it probably made a difference at some point. I even felt the way Inter managed extra time when they clearly were second best in that whole second half, as we said. But to manage extra time the way they did showed so much composure and so much experience and kind of know-how, which I know we're used to it with Italian teams because I think this is something you do really well. But I was really shocked of how good Inter were in extra time, considering how dominated they were in the second half and how you go from being so dominated to actually managing it so well and scoring a great goal, to be fair.
Yeah. And I think this is the flip side of when people talk about, people wheel out the old stereotype about Italian defending and blah, blah, blah. In Italy, if you're 2-0 up and then you go 3-2 down, that's like the worst. You're an absolute moron.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you failed. So they knew that that's what happened to them. They were 2-0 up and they went 3-2 down. And at least one of those goals they could have completely avoided, incidentally. The Eric Garcia one. So when I look at this, even mentally to get back into it, that's a real credit to the players. Because that's the flip side of this defending. It's not like this, yeah, like German football. Let's go and outscore them or whatever. No.
Yeah.
It's it really is huge that way. And seeing Simone Inzaghi all wet.
Under the rain.
Yes.
Even more dramatic, really. And what a night.
The less cool, less handsome brother turns out to be a much better coach. Although Pippo Inzaghi promoted with Pisa. Pippo Inzaghi is kind of like the Daniel Farke of Serie B, albeit much cooler, much wealthier than Pippo.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Has a lot more sex. There's a famous song. That's why I'm referencing this about Pippo Inzaghi. So anyway, Inter, like Paris Saint-Germain, the treble's on. All right, enough Champions League finalists and potential treble or quadruple winners in Paris Saint-Germain's case. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gab.
Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest battle to a 1-1 draw on Monday night, and suddenly it's not looking great for Mr. Marinakis.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? The minute he puts his shares in a blind trust, Nottingham Forest are doing worse.
I know, and he said already, well, if we don't make it to the Champions League, I'll come back. That blind trust will not be valid anymore. 1 win in 5 now in the Premier League. For them, the only win being Spurs, but everybody beats Spurs lately in the league anyway.
Tottenham get battered everywhere they go.
At the worst time. I mean, they can still do it, of course. There's 3 games to go. It's not impossible for them. They're still very much in the conversation to finish in that top 5, but they need points and they need better performance than the one that we saw on Monday at Crystal Palace, because that was not good enough for a team. For Palace, it was good enough. They focused on the FA Cup final. For a team like Forest, that was not good enough. And Gab, I know you are dying to play the percentage game here to see if that's changed since the last time you gave your percentage. So Liverpool, as we know, obviously have qualified already for the Champions League, and we assume that Arsenal too. So who are the other three, or who will be the other three?
Well, it all comes down to head-to-heads. Now, Manchester City, not there yet. They're on 64 points. Southampton away, Bournemouth at home, Fulham away. I don't think those last two are gimmies at all, but I still in the driving seat. Yeah. I'm going to give them 85%. Newcastle, they're on 63 points. Issue with Newcastle is they have some head-to-heads. Chelsea at home, Arsenal away, Everton at home. I'm going to go 65% for Newcastle. Chelsea, similar boat, also on 63 points. They have two head-to-heads. Newcastle away, United at home, last home game of the season, Stamford Bridge, and Forest away. I'm going 65% for them because, again, with these head-to-heads, you win one, you're good. Yeah. It's better to have two head-to-heads, I guess. Forest, Mr. Marinaki, sorry, they're on 61 points. They have Leicester at home, should be a gimme. West Ham away, and, of course, that head-to-head against Chelsea on the last day of the season. Look, something worth tuning in for on the last day of the season.
Yeah, many years. Might be the winning.
Could be the only game that matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this one, I've gone. Wait, let me just catch up on my math here. 1 second. I've gone 40% for them. I think it is uphill. And finally, Villa, 1 point behind 60. Their schedule looking pretty good. Bournemouth away, I think, is going to be the tricky one. I think then they have Spurs at home and United away. Also, of course, their game's been moved because of the FA Cup final, so they're annoyed about that. So they get the rest. So I think it's all, other than City, who I think are home and host, I think it's pretty much all to play for. And I don't get into goal difference because, as you know, I don't believe in goal difference. True. There's no such thing. I wonder if it's going to be another summer Saudi, Jules. Ruben Amorim had to address reports linking Bruno Fernandes with a big move to El Hilal and says, quote, "We want Bruno here. Would you want him there?"
Yeah, I mean, it seems that every year in around May, those rumors about Bruno Fernandes attracting loads of interest from big clubs. Or
Bernardo Silva.
Or Bernardo Silva, but more Bruno Fernandes. And very often he gets a new deal on the back of it.
He just got one a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure where they're coming from, those rumors. But yeah, I guess he's been, again, United's best player this season. Without him, I don't even know where they would be. Certainly not about to be in the Europa League final. So it's probably very important that they keep him. Would he want to leave United right now to go to Saudi? I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I'll tell you what, if the number's big enough, I don't think Bruno is a great fit for this system, even though he's the best player on the pitch. If the number's big enough, I think you think, and he's okay with going, obviously, you think long and hard about it.
Milan go down in Genoa after big Vitinha scores, but come from behind to take 3 points, 2-1. Are you seeing any progress, though?
No, I'm not. I don't think they played well in this game either. Rafael Leao is a deflected goal. Yeah. The back three, not really kind of doing it for me at all. There's a lot to work on. I think if Milan had a director of football in place, they might be going to Conceição and saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to play back three next year, so stop doing it. Right?
I know, yeah.
And also, João Felix came on, to be fair, played a part in the second goal.
Yeah, that's true.
But do we need to see him on the pitch? Maybe give minutes to somebody else? I don't know, since he's not going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Fabrizio Romano reports that Real Madrid are ready to let Rodrigo go if they get an offer of 100 million. Jules, would you let him go for 100 million?
I would probably let him go for half that. 100 million. Who's going to pay 100 million for Rodrigo? Nobody.
It is amazing, the hype machine.
Dreaming.
Okay.
If that's true, if that's really what they want, if somebody offers 100 million, and that can only come from Saudi, let's be honest here. There's no top 5 European club that would pay that much money for Rodrigo. He's just scored 1 goal in 20 games or something like that. Really, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a really good player. He's young. There's a player in there better than what we've seen this season where he struggled and where Real Madrid have struggled collectively. But 100 million, please, come on.
And he's a guy who's playing out of position.
Yeah, I'll drive him there even if you want. More Madrid as well, Gabi. Hernando Rodriguez, the president of the Brazilian FA, could be in big trouble, which could mean that Carlo Ancelotti might not become Brazil manager.
Or it might take some time. This is such a weird story. This basically has to do with a fraud case that was Goes back to 2023, which, if you remember, it looked like it was going to cause him to resign. And at some point, they reached a settlement agreement with the Brazilian court. This was back in January. But now some of his opponents have found a handwriting expert who says, wait, this signature from some judge appears to have been falsified. Major cloak and dagger stuff there. The Brazilian FA, of course, denying and Adjando deny all wrongdoing. They say they haven't even had a chance to examine this report that says the signature was falsified. I think the upshot is while this sorts itself out, it's going to delay things for Carlo to go there. Carlo might say, hey, I might stick around here in Madrid and continue to get paid in the meantime,
maybe.
right? The Times reports that Real Madrid have approached Liverpool to sign Trent Alexander-Arnold early, so they can have him on board for the Club World Cup. Maybe pay a bit of compensation. Jules?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit conflicted on this one because I think, I can understand. You want him from the beginning of it. So June, they probably would leave, let's say, June 10th and not in July 1st when his contract with Liverpool would have finished and his new one with Real Madrid would have started. But you could also see from his point of view, give him a bit of a break after a long season, a big decision that he's made. For him to be able to settle then in Spain and be, I think, relaxed and rested, I don't see any problem for him just turning up on July 1st in the US. If Real Madrid are still there, he's still at the Club World Cup, and then start his tenure at the club then.
Look, the season's over, and I hope we're all grown-ups. If Trent agrees to this, he can go to the club and say, hey, look, you're saving a months of my wages and you're getting some compensation from Real Madrid. I don't need to play the last 2 games. I'll come out and make a cameo and say goodbye at Anfield on the last day of the season, whatever last home game is. I'm going to have my rest now because I want to hit the ground running at the Club World Cup. Real Madrid care about this. Dani Carvajal is out. Lucas Vazquez is ancient. I think they could use Trent for the Club World Cup.
Yeah. Arsene Wenger says changes to the offside rule will be implemented within a year.
Yeah, he's talking out of his backside. So basically, this is the old thing where the daylight rule. He is obsessed with this idea that, if there's daylight, in other words, if the attacker's body, if any part of the attacker's body is level with the last defender, then he's not offside, right? He is absolutely obsessed with this idea. He thinks it's going to lead to more goals. Certainly his timing is kind of rubbish given the Champions League semifinals that we just watched in saying this. I think it's nonsense. I don't think we have a problem there. It's not like the olden days with systematic offsides. More importantly, I think he should know this. Well, and he also said, it's not my decision, it's IFAB's decision. IFAB can only, and Dale Johnson, our refereeing expert here at ESPN, explains it very, very well. He said, this is not possible because IFAB, they need to test it at competitive levels, which they haven't done yet. They only meet X many times a year. Yeah. And it takes time to do that. Well, why does he continue talking this just because he wants to?
Does he want to speed up the process, maybe?
He can't. It's not FIFA's decision. It's IFAB's decision. IFAB is 4 FIFA members, or 4 appointed by FIFA. Yeah. And then it's the 4 home nations who supposedly invented the game. Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England. And I hope that they see sense and they don't just railroad this through. Bild in Germany say that Florian Wirtz has told Xabi Alonso that he wants to join Bayern. Jules, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that one coming, to be fair, for all the interest that could come from Manchester City or Real Madrid. That seems to be the only 2 that could afford him anyway, to be honest, because I think the package overall between the transfer fee and the wages would be around 250 million euros for Florian Wirtz. I even didn't think that Bayern had that money, to be honest. I thought they were a bit short on money. But yeah, I'm more interested in the fact that how is he going to play at Bayern? Where do you put Musiala? Do you change your system with your company? Do you play one of them wide, which I think would be counterproductive? Do you play in a system where you've got 2 10s behind Kane?
Christmas tree.
But then if you add another 10, do you take a lot of what Harry Kane is good at, which is, dropping and playing a bit like a 10 himself at times? Does that have an impact on Michael Olise if you then have Musiala and Verz sharing the ball and not so much going wide to Olise? All those things. I know he's amazing and he's a fantastic talent, Do you really need him right now? Is that what you need more than anything else? Because if you spend that money on him, I'm not sure you've got much money left for other positions.
Yeah, I can answer that. The answer is no. Apparently, they're even extending Leroy Sané. As we
Although he changed agent, he went to Pini Zahavi, and that might change a few things.
we reported before, and he's taking a pay cut as well. But regardless, right, you're still stuck with the success of wingers, right? Because Gnabry and Coleman aren't going to deport themselves. So then what? Why do you is it a rule that you have to get the biggest talents out there? I also wonder, when he supposedly told Xabi Alonso that he's going to Bayern, do you think Xabi Alonso says, go wherever you like, man, I ain't going to be here? How cool would that have been?
I guess they probably have that relationship.
No, I'm kidding.
But
to be honest, for his personal and professional development, I don't think this is the right move for him, given where Bayern are, and I don't think it's the right move for Bayern if those numbers that you throw, which seem very plausible to me, are in any way correct.
Jorge Mendes is denying allegations of tax fraud in Portugal, but he's also writing a check for 18 million euros, Gab, to the taxman. So what's going on there?
Yeah.
I did nothing wrong, but here you go, 18 million quid.
Jules, I'm not a lawyer. You know my thoughts on lawyers.
Yes.
This has to do with shares in his company that were transferred to Mrs. Mendes, Sandra, on which apparently, according to reports in Correio da Manhã in Portugal, capital gains tax was due on them. They're denying this. There's been this long-running investigation, imaginatively called Operation Fora de Jogo. What do you think it means?
Oh, maybe offside?
Yeah, it's funny. They're all called like offside or Operation Foul or like, honestly, these lawyers or these these more like magistrates, no creativity. But yeah, look, I think to the eyes of many, many people are going to look at this and say, well, if you did nothing wrong, why are you paying 18 million? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Some might also say, why do you have 18 million euros given what you do? Right?
Well, he's very rich.
He's very rich, yeah. But people might also start questioning about how easily he can write an 18 million euro check in liquid assets, right?
True.
So, look, it's not a good look for him. But then again, there's a lot of people who don't like Uncle George.
Yeah, true.
And there's a lot of people who, let's face it, are jealous and envious of Uncle George, too.
Yeah, that's true.
The Daily Mail reports that Aston Villa are ready to listen to offers for Emi Martinez. Jules, is this the reality of financial sustainability rules?
Maybe.
Who do you think might be interested?
That's a very good question, Gab. Is there really a market for Emi Martinez right now? For how much? You bought it for 20 million, but that has been paid off by now. So, whatever.
So it's pure profit.
Yeah, pure profit now. If you sell him for 20, that's the maximum. I would think 30 million for Emi Martinez.
He's locked up on a long-term deal, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, 2028, something like that.
Yeah. If you were a center forward, we would be asking the question, is he better than the guy I have now? I mean, earlier in the show, we both agreed goalkeepers capable of heroics are critical in the Champions League semifinals, right? I think the two teams with the two better goalkeepers advance to the final.
Absolutely.
Maybe not a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
So I just look at this and I say, are you better than the guys who are out there? And I don't know. I mean, would you put him in your top 5 in the world?
Not right now, no.
Okay, I think many people would. And if he's not top 5, he's top 6 or 7.
Yeah, he would be top 10. But
I look at this and I mean, just going from the top of the from the top of the Premier League table, right? Just you play is he better than? Is he better than the Arsenal keeper? Probably yes, although Raya might fit the system better, and obviously he was Arsenal before, so that's not going to happen. Is he better than the Newcastle goalkeeper? Is he better than the Chelsea goalkeeper? Is he better than, he is the Aston Villa keeper. Is he better than Nottingham Forest keeper? Well, that's debatable. You know what I'm saying? Is he better than United keeper? Is he better than the Spurs keeper?
Do those clubs want another goalkeeper when they also have other positions to strengthen? And for how much?
I don't know. It's just funny with the goalkeeper position when you can get a guy who I think, again, I am not an Emi Martinez fan. I think he's kind of a tool, actually, in the way he behaved in the World Cup and in general. But that said, in any other position, if you can get a top 10 player in the world, and again, many would have him top 5. We'll see where he ends up. I think the FC 100 is coming out at some point.
Soon, yeah.
We both voted on it.
Yeah.
You would go ahead and do it, right? especially if your goalkeeper isn't in the top 10. I think all these teams that we've mentioned don't have a goalkeeper in the top 10.
Yeah.
So it seems a bit bizarro to me that, we question whether there's a market for him. I think the other aspect which is interesting here is PSR. I mean, we know that Monchi loves to wheel and deal.
Yeah.
We know that Villa are in a really, really tough position.
Especially if they don't make the Champions League.
And it seems bizarre that you would let go of your top keeper. But so I'm guessing it would take a lot more than 20 or 30 million.
Yeah. Sky Italia report that Kevin De Bruyne is seriously considering Napoli when his contract with Manchester City expires at the end of the season, Gab.
Okay.
I would love this. I have to say, before you answer, I would absolutely love this.
I would love this. I would say, bro, you don't need to play every game. Sometimes, maybe we do like 45 minutes of McTominay hammering the other guy, and then you come on, you pass circles around him. This business with his fitness looks to me like he's been just fine the last 3 months, right?
Yeah, but
and he's actually been pretty good.
We don't know for how long.
Okay, that's fine. But this idea that he can't play 2 games in a week, he's too tired, and all this garbage that we heard from these pseudo doctors who just watch him on television, see that Pep leaves him on the bench, is obviously nonsense, right? I'd love it if he wanted to have a different experience. I am highly skeptical of this because obviously he would have to take a major pay cut. I don't think he's any interest. I don't think he's motivated by money, frankly, at this stage of his career anyway.
Definitely not.
But he does like Naples because he got married in Sorrento, just outside Naples, on the advice of his good buddy and Napoli legend, Neapolitan in his heart forever, Dries Mertens. And obviously his other buddy, Romelu Lukaku, of course, plays in Naples. So
that's right.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen, but it would be fun. It would be such a change of pace for Napoli.
Yeah.
Joe Montemurro is leaving Olympique Lyonnais women's team after just 1 year. Jules, what happened? He didn't like the food in France's culinary capital?
You're right. It might be the food. It might be, I don't know.
Do we agree? Sorry, first of all, Lyon is the culinary capital of France.
That's
good food all over, but
that's what they believe over there.
That's what they say.
Yeah, that's what they say.
You might dispute that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, he's going back to Australia and will manage the Matildas, the Australian women's national team, which I guess as an Australian himself is probably a very appealing job. I get that. But you are also leaving behind you one of the best teams in Europe with Chelsea and Barcelona, really. And I wonder if he was kind of pushed out a little bit as well after the disappointment of the Champions League and them not making it to the final. And also they still have the playoffs to play in the league as well. So the semi-final and then potentially the final. So they're not champions just yet. But I think there was a bit of disappointment within the club about his tenure because he's only been there 1 year.
Are you suggesting maybe some at the club aren't too sad that he said goodbye?
I wonder if it's more of a mutual.
I wonder, Michelle Kang, if you're watching this, let us know. Yeah. Or in fact, as ever, John Texter, if you're watching this, since you still have some interest as a fan in Lyon women, right?
I'm sure.
Let us know.
Brighton owner Tony Bloom is about to take a 29% stake in Hearts, the Scottish club, for £10 million, Gab. Apparently he wants to disrupt the Celtic and Rangers duopoly.
And he's going to do it through data and the Brighton way. I find this really, really interesting. Yeah. Also the way Hearts, of course, they have a setup where you've got fans who have to approve this. They're going to vote on this. If he takes a stake, he's not going to have any voting rights, which is also part of the reason why 29% is valued at just 10 million. I mean, I know it's Scotland, but still. Can he bring those innovations? Just even hiring Tony Bloom as a consultant.
Yeah.
To me, sounds like a really, really good deal. I don't know. I think he wants to challenge himself. Of course, he had the tie-up with Union Saint-Gilloise, which is kind of more muted, although, his guy, Alex Muzio, is still in charge over there. So, I don't think that trail's gone totally cold, although they may not have the financial stake that they once had. I think it's interesting and exciting.
I agree. If you're a Hearts fan, I think you're excited.
And I think the fact that he's not going in there saying, I don't need the voting rights, I think makes a big difference because the power rests with the fans. I would hate it. As you know, I'm an advocate of the fan voting role, the fan ownership. I think sometimes you get pretty fugazi fan ownership at many clubs because there's a million barriers put in. If there aren't barriers, if the fans really remain in charge, then I think this is a good deal.
Yeah,
And it'll be
agree.
interesting.
I agree.
As expected, the Court of Arbitration for
I-
Sports has officially excluded Leon from the Club World Cup. And we know why,
We know
because they're
why.
owned by the same
Pachuca.
people, Grupo Pachuca. Jules, a playoff on May 31st between LAFC and Club America moves one step closer.
Yeah, that's right. There was also the You said the name so well of that Puerto Rico side.
Not
Alajuelense.
Puerto Rico, Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, sorry.
Deportivo Alajuelense.
Alajuelense.
I think, they have
who
some legal
wants-
action
yeah,
going as well.
Also, Cass, I think, said that it won't be you. So we'll have this super playoff between LAFC and Club America to find out the last club to take part in the Club World Cup, because there's one missing for now. They're short of one team, and the winner will be there.
So, and by the way, CONCACAF, it's not like they simply pulled these names out of a hat and said,
Yeah.
look, let's see,
Best
like
seeded or something like that.
the biggest television market is in the U.S. and the most
Biggest
popular club in
Mexico.
Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, they have some ranking system, which might be slightly mutable. Look at Inter Miami getting in. But still, I think it's good. They obviously, they're Club America, a much bigger team than Leon. I'm just shocked that Pachuca thought they were going to get away with
I
this,
know,
because they
I
kept
agree.
fighting it for so long. And guys, the rules are clear. And
Yeah.
this is one situation where I think we can praise FIFA for drawing the line.
Yeah. More Arsene Wenger, since he always makes headlines, Gabby, he thinks that the Europa League winner should not get a Champions League spot the following season, and that we'll see more and more free agency. What do you make of all of this?
None of it. I mean, they're interesting talking points. It's interesting to hear from him. I wish he would speak more openly. He goes on beIN Sport and talks to them, and then he makes headlines, and it's a paid appearance. I wish, given his role in football, I wish he would give him more free license. If there's some red lines that he can't talk about, because Gianni Infantino obviously is pretty controlling at the top
Pretty controlling.
and doesn't speak much to the media, that's fine. But stuff like this, hey, look, he did say, it seems weird, the Europa League winner, we know why it happens. He knows why it happens. He said why it happens. It's because to provide a financial incentive for the Europa League. He also says it's not his decision anyway, and it's not FIFA's decision, it's UEFA's decision. Fair enough. I find the free agency aspect more interesting, because every so often we hear about this. You run down your contract, blah, blah, blah. A lot of agents I talk to would love this if this was the case, if there was more free agency, because obviously they could get much fatter commissions.
Yes.
In reality, they say, what we often ignore about footballers is, especially ones who are settled, who have families, footballers generally don't want to move, and they know that the window to move to a bigger club is pretty limited, and that if somebody comes and does an offer for you, or puts money on the table, then you better consider it. So I'm not sure his prediction's correct. And the other reason. There's a lot of clubs hoping his prediction isn't correct.
Yeah.
Because a lot of clubs, when we talk about amortization and stuff like that, a lot of their finances are predicated on on financializing these players, right?
Yeah.
On acquiring them for not much money and amortizing them, and then transferring them for a fee later. So they're going to hope Wenger's wrong about this. It's time! It's time! It's texter time! Jules, our hero, was invited by your boy Nasser Al-Khelaifi.
That's right.
To Paris Saint-Germain. I don't think he wore his cowboy hat this time.
No, he made a joke about it, saying he left it at home.
Again, with the cowboy hat. He's
Yeah.
hilarious. JT, you're hilarious. Although I bet he wore fancy trainers, right?
No, I think he was in a suit from what I
Cowboy
saw.
boots, at least?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Missed opportunity. In the meantime, he's made a submission to the High Court. This is to do with a case where Bruno Lage, he had hired him to coach Botafogo,
Yeah.
sacked him almost straight away.
Yeah.
But apparently in the contract, Bruno Lage has sued him because he says, wait a minute, you told me that, you'd hired me, I could coach Botafogo, but then I would be hired at if I left the club, or if you fired me, I would be in contention for one of your other clubs. And obviously, there's been a coaching change at Palace and at Lyon as well.
Yeah.
And apparently at Molenbeek, yes.
Yeah, even Molenbeek.
Several at Molenbeek. That didn't happen, so he's suing him. Apparently, reportedly, Texter says, I did sign the contract, but, quote, part of his defense is, it's an unenforceable agreement in law, unquote. Lawyers, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't look like he could get away with this one. And Like, I mean, if who would give a contract where you said, listen, go and manage this club, but if you're not good enough, don't worry, I give you another of my clubs. This is just the bonker. I mean, I know this is John Textor's world, and
we're just living in it.
Exactly.
We're hostages.
Absolutely. We understand that, JT. Don't worry, we get you. But this looks all wrong. And if you're Bruno Lage, this is your right. Absolutely. People said to you, yeah, you would get that security, or if you get sacked from here, you will have another chance there. And it hasn't been done. So you are, I think, right to do that and sue him. But from a John Textor point of view, I mean, when will he learn? That's the thing, you know.
But also, what kind of a defense is it? Oh, I'm going to sign this contract, which presumably I have my lawyers write up.
You think so?
But I know, oh, look, this contract's not enforceable.
I know.
What does that mean? Your contract, so like, even if it's, and this is, you know, my issue with lawyers and how I've said many times, it even says so in the Bible, right? That
Yes.
it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of the needle than for a lawyer to enter the kingdom of heaven. What kind of lawyers would tell Textor, oh, yeah, guys, hey, JT, we wrote this contract for you, but don't worry, it's all nonsense. It's not enforceable. Like, I mean, some decency. I'm not talking about Textor's decency.
Yeah,
I'm talking about his
absolutely.
lawyer's decency,
Yeah.
right? I mean, Textor's going to take legal advice. I don't blame him in any way.
Yeah.
But his lawyers,
I know.
I mean, honestly, what kind of people are you?
Back to the original Ronaldo with Gianno Rodriguez, legal problems that we mentioned earlier. Suggestion that R9 will run for Brazil FA president. Will run. So there will be another elections for Brazilian president.
Well, if Reginaldo Rodriguez has to step aside.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And
then
that
he could be in the
Ronaldo
mix
would run.
again.
But to do that, to be able to run for the presidency of the Brazilian FA, he will need to sell his club of Valladolid, which is the owner, which is proving difficult.
It's proving difficult. It's been ongoing forever. There's this Mexican group that's interested. He's about as popular in Valladolid right now as venereal disease. And the reality is, I don't even know, incidentally, how clear cut it is that he can't own Valladolid if he's running the Brazilian FA.
Yes,
it's different continents, but whatever. But that's what was reported. But more to the point, if you see the job that you see how Valladolid have gone since he took over, why would you back up to run the Brazilian FA? I mean, Valladolid getting relegated.
Yeah.
Could Brazil get relegated to Oceania? I don't know. No,
That's a good
won't
question.
happen. I'm kidding. Hey, look, it's sad because I love
course,
Ronaldo. I'm outing myself. It's an age thing. I don't hate the other Ronaldo, but he is my favorite Ronaldo. I'm guessing he's probably your favorite Ronaldo too.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you enter the world of business and club administration, you face the consequences. U.S. President Donald J. Trump says it might provide a, quote, big incentive, unquote, for
Does
peace
it?
in the war between Ukraine and Russia if Russia were allowed to compete in World Cup qualifying, maybe even go to the 2026 World Cup if they qualify. Jules, football diplomacy?
I would love if that was true, that football can make things much better like that. I mean, I cannot wait for Vladimir Putin to sit down at the table and say, listen, I can't do peace here until Golovin is back playing for Russia in the qualifiers at the World Cup.
I want to be in the World Cup more than I want Crimea and the Donbass.
Exactly.
Look, Trump said, look, it's not his decision. It rests with
Yeah,
the guy he calls the
thank you,
boss.
Donald. Yeah, of course. Yeah, the boss.
Gianni Infantino. You know what? It's not even Infantino's decision. I think this would have to be FIFA Bureau, FIFA Council decision.
Yeah.
It's also not, it's a nice idea, but
It's impossible to put together, right?
yeah, even if they reached a peace deal tomorrow, it would be, well, if they reached a peace deal, I suppose it would be workable. But one of the reasons it's unworkable is that there's a whole bunch, Russia and European qualifying, and there's a whole bunch of countries that just flat out refuse to play Russia.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, logistically, I think we can put this one to bed for now. Although we all hope for a just
peace, of
and
course.
secure peace deal.
Yeah. And sticking with the World Cup, Gabby, Andrew Giuliani will head the US government's FIFA World Cup task force. That name sounds familiar. Where would we have heard it?
Well, his dad,
Rudy.
Giuliani, former mayor of New York,
Of
former
course.
attorney for, still an attorney, I think.
Yeah.
For Trump and others. It's interesting. Andrew Giuliani, who's married to a rhythmic gymnast.
Okay,
Fun
nice.
fact. He's going to head this thing called the FIFA Task Force. He's a big golf guy. He played golf at Duke, although then he was, I think he was kicked off the team or he was not invited back on the team when the coach changed. I had no idea that he was a football fan at all, but he'll be helped by Carlos Cordero, former U.S. Soccer Federation head. And basically their job is to liaise with FIFA, smooth things over. And smoothing things over is important. Now, the U.S. vice, and one of the big issues, of course, is visas, right? Because obviously immigration's a hot topic in the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance addressed this, and he got killed by some. He said, we want people to come. We want them to celebrate. We want them to watch games. When their time is up, we want them to go home. Otherwise, they will have to talk to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, which is, in other words, otherwise we'll kick them out. J.D. Vance got killed for this. I'm going to stick up for Vance for a second here. It's pretty obvious what they're saying. Like, we should focus on the fact that I implied in this is that people who buy tickets will come and are welcome to come, but don't outstay your visa. I think every country in the world would say, nobody's going to say, oh yeah, come, buy a ticket, get your visa to come, and then stay as long as you like. So, is it the most welcoming thing to say? Probably not. But then he also has to speak to his constituents who elected for a reason. So I think the biggest takeaway here is it looks like they will do a deal on visas. I think they pretty much have to. I think that's a red line for FIFA, both for the Club World Cup and for the big World Cup in 2026. Jules, this brings us to an end, but we got to come back on Monday. You know why? Classico this weekend. Time. Big game for Arsenal as well in the battle for second place. Napoli can pull away in Serie A. Lots of things going on. Until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.